Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed, author of the Dating Toolbox, available on Amazon.com. Okay, so today I want to talk about why you must have a dating program, why you must take a systematic and somewhat ruthless approach to dating, okay? The main reason is because dating in today's world is very rough for men. I'm going to argue, and I've got some strong evidence here, that over the last 40 years, there has been what I call a war against men. And this war started in academia, and it's spread now to all aspects of our culture. So, unfortunately, many men today have taken the position of, I'm not going to date at all. I'm going to go my own way. MGTOW, I'm not going to have anything to do with women. And I'm going to lead a life of solitude. I'm not going to consider ever getting married or anything of that nature. And really, I believe that that is a path to unhappiness. Human beings are meant to live together, to be together, to have families. Children raised in families are much mentally healthier, much emotionally healthier, have higher levels of academic success, higher levels of career success, higher levels of happiness. So this destruction of the family that is the consequence of this war against men is a terrible thing, not only for our civilization, but the men are going to suffer. Ironically, women and children also suffer. Okay, so because of this, I believe that you need a very systematic approach to dating. You can date successfully. You can find high quality women. You just need a program. You need strict rules and methodology of doing so. So let me first return to this concept of the dating world being very tough. The American Psychological Association just completed a study, and I quote, "There was a strong tendency to associate women with positive attributes and men with negative attributes." And this study, this conclusion is kind of crazy because those of you, if you're familiar with the American Psychological Association, it is a far left institution. In my book, I talk about the fact that 30 out of 31 psychologists and psychiatrists classify themselves as extremely liberal. Put another way, only 1 out of 31 psychologists are moderate or conservative. So there is a heavy liberal bias in the academic association, the American Psychological Association, as the one that has to do with dating and relationships. So there's a heavy bias in that in that institution, and for them to come out with the conclusion that there is a heavy bias against men, that we tend to associate positive attributes with women and negative attributes with men, is really mind-blowing if you think about the context of that study. Originally, the study, I think the purpose of it is they wanted to show racial differences. So they would put black and white men, Asian, Hispanic in suits and different kinds of clothing, and they wanted to show that there was racial bias. And what they found is actually that the racial bias was not that great. For example, if you put a black man in a really nice suit, he's going to be perceived just as positively as a white man in a really nice suit. They did find that if you put a black man in, certain kinds of clothing, saggy jeans and things of that nature, that there was going to be some bias, racial bias. But generally, overall, they found very, very little racial bias. What they found was gender bias, a tremendous level of gender bias. And the authors of this study concluded that this gender bias, which really started to be institutionalized in the 1980s, back when I was starting my college experience, and it spread from the university to our culture as a whole. So our culture today, as a result, is extremely biased against men. Okay? And going back to my original argument, a lot of men have merely said, because I live in a world so biased against me, so biased against fathers, so biased against husbands, I'm not even going to try and pursue marriage. I'm not even going to try and pursue relationships. My position is that, yes, you can still do so successfully, but you have to have an extremely rigorous system. And that is what I have designed. That's why my system is all about sifting and screening and finding suitable women. We've got to get rid of these women that have been brainwashed by our culture, by our academic institutions, by our media. We've got to screen those women out. That's why I argue that really only 1 out of 4 women are relationship material. So I've talked about this in other videos, but it bears a little bit of revisiting now. Excuse me. How do we screen out undesirable women? Again, we've got to be extremely systematic. We've got to have a program. That's why I have men starting conversations every day for a month with a new woman. So every day you try and start a conversation with a woman. This immediately allows you to gauge a woman's behavior and to start the screening and sifting process. If you try and start a conversation with a woman and she is hostile, that means she's probably unsuitable. So a lot of guys will start conversations, and if they don't successfully start that conversation, if they don't successfully open that woman, they will view that as a personal failure. I am telling you guys, don't view it as such. View it as part of the screening process. You are not the failure. She is the failure. She is simply proving that she is unsuitable for a relationship. Screen her out. So we open 30 women a month. We may only get 7 or 8 phone numbers. What that means, though, is you've simply screened out 23, 24 women who are probably not going to be suitable for relationships. Now, yes, some of these women may have boyfriends or husbands, and that's why they don't respond. But obviously, all these women are not going to be candidates. And you have to do that. You have to do that fearlessly. So again, guys, that's why we're not afraid of this process. It's merely a process of screening. Then we get those 6, 7 phone numbers. We wait a couple days. We call the gal up. Interestingly, I just read an article by a female relationship advisor, and she argues that, oh no, you shouldn't wait 3 days. That's an old and antiquated rule. You should immediately call a woman up. Well, remember, guys, what I said, we don't get relationship advice from women, okay? What women don't tell you is that when they're giving you relationship advice, they're giving you advice about someone that a woman already has high interest in. So we as men need to determine that. That's why we wait a couple days. We never call the next day. We always wait at least 2 or 3 days later to call. Again, that's a screening device. If a woman gets angry that you waited 3 days to call, she's probably not going to be suitable for a relationship. Or if she doesn't remember you, that means she never had high interest in you in the first place. So again, that is a screening process. So that's why out of those 6 or 7 phone numbers, you may only get 2, maybe 3 dates. That's on a good month, okay? What you need to understand is, even if you're only getting 2 dates a month, one of those dates will be successful. Again, maybe only 1 out of 3 dates are successful, but you're there. If you're following this program, you are still getting 1 successful date a month. Once you get 3 successful dates in, now that woman is part of your 3-woman dating rotation. And using this system, you will build a 3-woman dating rotation. And as a general rule, these 3 women will be very high quality. Okay, now going back to my own case, my whole system, my whole program, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family. I did so. I found and married a great woman and have a wonderful family. Just watched my son at his wrestling matches yesterday. He won both his wrestling matches. This is one of the, marriage and family can be a great thing. But again, that's if you select the right women. So we now have this 3-woman dating rotation. From that dating rotation, again, we continue to sift and screen. Out of your 3-woman dating rotation, maybe only one of them will work out. So after 3 months, after 4 months, you may drop 2 women out of your rotation, but you now have that one high quality woman. But the screening process is not over. We're still only 3 months in. What we look for at that point is a golden year. I've been in that situation about 5 or 6 times myself. After 3 months, I had this high quality gal, but it usually did not work out for a year. I usually did not get that golden year. I've talked in the past about how I've had problems 6, 7, 8 months into a relationship. We're arguing, we're disagreeing. Again, this is all part of the screening process. So the argument here is that you must continue that we today, to summarize, we live in a world that is hostile towards men. It is hostile towards men who want to be fathers and husbands. So because of that, we need a serious dating system. We need a serious dating program. We have methodologies. We have rules and steps in place to carefully screen and sift women. So that's really what dating is. It's all about screening and sifting women. And if you do this correctly, your chances of finding a very good woman are very high. You eventually will find a high quality woman. It may take several years. It took me nearly 7 years from the time I started developing my system to the time I became engaged to my wife. I've now been married to her. We just celebrated our 18th anniversary, and we have a wonderful marriage. So it can be done, guys, if you're disciplined, you work hard, and you're systematic. Okay, guys, so if you like what you heard and saw today, please hit that like and subscribe button. We need to build a community here, a community of men that will fight back against the injustice in our society and create a situation where fathers and husbands are again important. Like I said, if you're really interested in what I'm talking about, please check out my book, The Dating Toolbox. It's available on Amazon.com. It's only $13. Below, you'll see a link to get the book if you want, and happy dating.